All right, everybody, welcome back. 2020 Ford Raptor, pulling the transmission on this thing. This is just a modified F-150, so a few more plates, a few more cross members. Got to get these all down out of the way, and then we're going to get this out of the way. We're going to put a tripod under this and hold it up and get this cross member out of here. All right, so you saw how this thing came out of here. Now it's going to be right here for these heat shields. Heat shield, 10 millimeter on this side, same. 10 millimeter, take those out, and then take just these two bolts here. Other side, take the cross member out. Okay, after you get the cross member off, you can see we got this mount right here. There is a 15 millimeter up here that takes half of this mount off right here. And most of the time you gotta take that off. Sometimes you can let the whole exhaust down once you loosen the front, but that's just an option if you have to take that out. And then get this mount off. And it's got up in here, two 15s up in there, and two 15s on this side that take that mount off. And then also we're gonna start working on the exhaust. This exhaust looks rusted. I sprayed it already, but man, I'm probably gonna have to use a torch to get that out of there. And then this also, this clamp right here has to come apart, and it's also rusted, so hopefully I can just loosen this back nut right here, maybe with some heat. And then on the front, you got where it bolts to the turbos. So we got 15 millimeter nuts, 15 millimeter nut. And if we have to use heat to get them off, we will. Also, O2 sensors need to be unplugged. So we're talking way up in there. Sometimes you even have to, see if I can, sometimes you even have to get, you follow that blue wire up there to that connector. Oh man, I don't know if you can see it. That connector right there. And you can, sometimes you have to get them from under the hood because they're way up in there. So I'm probably gonna have to get that from under the hood. Plug the O2 sensors, get this exhaust out. Okay, now we're gonna see if we can get these exhaust bolts out right here. See if they'll come off or if I gotta get some heat on them. Do this by hand first. Oh, definitely gonna break. Okay, gotta get a torch. buddy. The other one just came out. Okay, so now that we got those out, doesn't take much heat, just a little bit of heat on that nut back there. From over here, you can see that nut in there. So now what we have to do is get this one loose, which is going to be this one 15 millimeter nut right up in there to try to get loose so we can slide this whole thing backwards and unhook that front exhaust, hopefully. All right, now we're going to take the drive shaft off, special socket. Alright, now we got pressure pulling back on there. Extension wobble socket. See if these will come off. Oh man, I got lucky. Not so lucky on that one. We just get a bigger gun. Uh-huh. Also make sure while you're at it, rear O2 sensors. And they're gonna unplug somewhere on the top of the transmission. They're kind of a pain to get to. Here's one right here. So unplug the rear O2 sensors too, and then we'll try to wrestle this out of here. Okay, so right here I'm starting to figure out that it ain't going to come out because of those wires without the front drive shaft coming out first. So I'm going to take the front drive shaft out first. Okay, so you can wiggle and wiggle, but you see this O2 sensor is getting caught on the drive shaft, so we got to get the drive shaft out. Tens. Got to take the sway bar out of the way. All right, now you can see with the exhaust out of there, we got a lot of room. So next thing I'm going to do is take the starter off. This 10mm with this bracket, then a bolt, and that bolt. Take those two out, move the starter out of the way, and we'll get torque converter nuts inside there. Okay, with the starter up out of the way, now you can see that little rubber cover comes off, and then the torque converter nuts are in there. And before I take those off, I'm going to take this skid plate off so I can turn the motor over by the crankshaft. So when I start pulling on this, you see how it kind of came down to where now the socket's kind of hitting the bell housing, so it holds it tight, and you really got to put some pressure on it to break those loose. And now we repeat that 5 more times and move on. All right, torque converter bolts are out. Nuts, I mean. Torque converter nuts are out. You can see nuts are off there. Next thing we're going to do is make sure everything's unhooked from the transmission. So we got those little wires. We got this main plug-in right here. We got cable stuff over here. We got a few little clips. Get all those unconnected. Then I'm going to put a jack under here. And then I'm going to take the transfer case off. Another part about unhooking this is this 13mm right here that holds all these lines and this bracket onto it. But that's kind of a pain if you don't know. Well, you can't see nothing here because my hands are in the way, but you pull that little red locking tab out and then you push in on the little thing and you pull back on the little handle to unhook this. Okay, so now we got to take this transfer case off. Reverse torques, bunch of them around there. Take all those reverse torques out. I'm going to take this motor off so I can get it back far enough with all this in the way. If I can get it back far enough, so I'll just take the motor off to help me, and then we'll get this out of here. All right, after the transfer case is off, what we're going to do now is bell housing bolts. Take all the bell housing bolts out, 13mm bolts, and then at the last thing we'll take the cooler lines off because they'll leak, and then we'll get this thing down. All right, everybody, there it is. 10-speed, 10R, 2020 Raptor. Thanks for watching, everybody, and I'll see you on the next one.